Good morning. I have a few things I want to share with you. The first of which is about me and my life presently. 2 years ago, I graduated from college and decided to abandon what I had studied and to shift my focus and attention and career to dance. 1 year ago, a little less than a year ago, I moved to Germany and sort of started learning German. A couple days ago, I moved apartments to a new place. And these are just sort of three arbitrary landmark moments of transition in my life that have happened recently. But the truth is that these moments of transition happen all the time. And sometimes they're not so clearly recognizable. Like there's moments of transition where you're transitioning from like one level of understanding of a text into like the next level of understanding. Or there are moments of transition when the seasons change. Or moments where your friends like move or the social constellations of your life shift. And in all of these moments, there's this kind of quiet feeling that you're lost. And this like threat of loneliness and despair. I think that like quiet is an essential part of this, because it's kind of like you're in between these worlds and you don't know what's going on. You don't know what's going to happen. You just know that things are changing. And so like presently a lot of things are changing in my life. Like I said, the seasons are changing. The stars are aligning themselves dramatically in some way that I have heard about but don't know the details on. This past week has been an astrological adventure, I guess. New people are coming into my life, and other people have left my life for some time, and I'm moving, and I'm learning. I feel myself getting to a new place in my understanding of the German language. And so just like to illustrate this point about learning a language and these quiet moments of like loss, feeling lost, not lost, but feeling lost, these in-between times of transition, I'm gonna talk about this barbecue that my new roommate, Chris, invited me to 2 days ago. It was actually the day of my first night in my new apartment, this apartment. And I had been a little bit skeptical about Chris. I'd gotten some creepy vibes. But he invited me to this barbecue, like 2 doors down, in the backyard of one of the last squats in Berlin. And I was probably definitely the only like non-German speaker. Maybe the youngest, probably the youngest, except for like a few kids running around. And I mean, I felt like I stuck out like a sore thumb. I felt like a foreigner. I felt like I didn't understand what was going on. And so Chris, even before this, has taken it upon himself to speak to me only in German, which is amazing, but also really challenging because I don't speak very good German. I mean, I'm learning, but I really don't speak it, and he does not slow down for me at all. He just says, yeah, you understand everything, it's fine. So he just speaks to me in German. And so we're in this social situation, and I'm clearly a little bit shy, and like, I don't know what's going on, and I'm like clutching my beer like it's gonna, like a life jacket, you know, or like a safety inner tube or whatever. And I'm trying to understand this German, and you know, for a while I feel totally lost and kind of like as if I was in a room full of foam, or like everything is a little dulled, like my senses are, I'm just not really picking it up, and I'm not understanding what's going on. But that's the thing with learning a language. It's full of these kind of like moments of stagnation, these plateaus. And eventually, while I was standing there, I kind of like realized that it's okay. It's obvious to everyone that you don't understand. Nobody cares. The people that do want to talk to you will, you know, create the necessary conditions for you to understand. And also, like, I can take it upon myself to look at the big picture of the situation, which is that I'm learning that what's going on around me is small talk, so it's not a big deal if I don't understand. And also that Chris is being extraordinarily kind by challenging me to like go through this first barrier, this like next step in my process of learning the language. And he's being also extremely patient with me because, I mean, I guess no one really likes to just talk at someone knowing full well that that person doesn't understand them. Well, so instead of focusing on being lost and not understanding the words that were being said, I managed to zoom out and see the bigger picture, which was, yeah, like I said, that I'm learning and that it's okay to not understand, and that I can look at the context and see that what's being said is small talk. So I can kind of lightly listen and pick up words like the word for apartment, Wohnung, because he's telling everyone, yeah, we just got this new apartment, it's around the corner, learning the word for corner, which I've just forgotten. And I learned another random word, like how to take a deep bow, which I'm sure I'll never need that word again. But anyways, I ended up having fun. And another kind of like part of this story, because we've got like Chris being really nice to me and me realizing that, and me looking at the big picture, which also helped me to realize that Chris was being kind and really actually giving me a gift by challenging me. I decided to also do him the honor of being kind to myself and forgiving myself for not understanding in order to kind of loosen up and have a sense of humor about the situation and forgive myself for not understanding. And the more you can forgive yourself for not understanding and not focus on how you're not achieving the mechanics that you need to get the situation right, you can let that go, lose your balance a little, and understand the big picture. That, yeah, you're off balance, and it's not a big deal. And also, looking at the big picture does help you learn a language. For example, after buying a coffee for a long time, I would be asked the question, "Ist das für hier oder zu mitnehmen?" And I was always like, what? But after you buy a coffee, there's a very small amount of things that someone can say to you, and if they keep repeating the same thing, it's likely that even if you don't remember the words for it each time, it's going to be the same thing. And in this case, it's, would you like it for here to go? So it's like context, don't focus on how you don't understand the words, focus on how you do understand the context. And we really do have the skills to do this. I'm reading a book right now by Franco Bifo Berardi, in which he talks about sensibility, which is our ability to interpret nonverbal signs, like physical cues, eye contact, parts of the situation that cannot be expressed with words, but that can only be felt or sensed. And I think that every human being has the ability to be sensitive to one another, and that when you're lost and in these moments of transition and in between, that is when you really need to rely on your sensibility, on your sensibility skills. The best example, or another example of a great way to learn a language is to learn a language from children. Learning a language from children is amazing because they are also learning all the time, and they are also constantly trying to kind of grasp the environment, like the bigger picture, or not. I don't know, children, but they're just like these sponges where everything around them, whether it's language or other nonverbal cues or whatever, faces, sounds, they're constantly learning. So when you're learning a new language from a child who's also learning their first language, it's really cool because maybe you're at a similar level, you can read easy books together. They are great teachers because they're so charming, and they have great pedagogical tools such as repetition. You can play one game and repeat the same word over and over again. I'm never going to forget the word ice bear, which is polar bear, because of a game I played with a 2-year-old. They also point and say, so that's a great sort of easy thing, that's a very good, clear pedagogical tool. And also they teach you to be critical because also they don't always know how to say something correctly. So you need to remember that they're not just founts of knowledge for language. Obviously, they're children. So it's humbling to learn from a child and it's also hilarious, and I really recommend it. Children are incapable, and they are in need of like constant care and attention. But also, and I wanted to say that because we understand that children are learning all the time. And when we adults are in these periods of transition, we should remember that children, it's kind of like childhood is being in this transitional period all the time, and they are given constant care. So when we are going through these periods, I think it's totally fair and normal and important to give yourself the same kind of care and attention, and to ask for it if you need it, seek it out if you need help from somebody else. Yeah, children, and also sensibility. Like children are learning how to live in the world, not just through learning the language. And I think we can learn a lot from children about sensibility and picking up on nonverbal cues from being with children. On asking for help, I just had a small story about feeling really guilty about calling all my friends and asking them to help me move stuff. It's not exactly like the phone call that you really want to make. It doesn't really feel like the best thing to ask your friend for a favor for. However, of course, someone was available to help me, and I hadn't seen her in a long time, and we caught up, and it went really smoothly, and I shouldn't have felt guilty, and I needed the help, and I'm really glad that I asked for it. I think it's really important to talk about these moments of transition because, like I said at the beginning, a lot of the time we go through them alone. And they don't have to be things like moving or graduating or learning a language. Sometimes they're very subtle. And we all experience them, and they're not easy things to experience. So I would say be easy on yourself when you are experiencing these in-between times, these transitional times. And remember that it is so important to zoom out and see the big picture of what's going on. That, yeah, you're in a transitional time, but that, yes, you also have the resources to communicate in ways like non-verbally if you need, to ask for the help, to give yourself care that you need. Also, sometimes what you need is to give care to others and to feel like you have something that can help someone else in a time when you need help. All of these things are totally at our disposition, these tools, and they just have to do with the ability to shift your perception on what's going on in the world and where you're at. So just please remember that that you're not alone, that change is a gift that you don't always think that you want, but that usually ends up being extremely beneficial. And to look to children as guides, as well as to your mentors and peers. Yeah, these are my words for today. And for now, I'll say Danke, tschüss, dann, bitteschön, tschüss dann, schönen Tag noch, bye.